Just needs a clutch.
How did this happen? How did we get here?
Just needs a clutch. All right? Just needed a clutch. It's a weird looking clutch. Well guys, there's been a bit of an absence of my 2003 Sonic Blue, at one point cheap, Cobra that has been featured on the channel since last October. And that is for good reason. And that is because, unfortunately, I think there's a problem with the motor that I've put in this car twice now. So where did we leave off? The car went to the dyno. It ran and drove excellent, but upon loading up the dyno, the car was smoking and burning oil, which I came to the conclusion was most likely the valve seals. So I ultimately ended up pulling the motor, found a cracked valve guide and a bent valve. So I replaced those, did 32 new valve seals, got it all back together, all new gaskets, put it back in the car, and that was pretty much the last video. We got it driving. It seemed like the car was driving great. It seemed like there wasn't really any more smoke. And that was pretty much it. I basically made it my daily driver at that point. Since that video, I think I've put a total of 600 miles on this car, and it's been great. It really has. It's been it is my summer daily driver until about a month ago when I parked it, because I found that, believe it or not, it is still smoking. So I had a dyno appointment scheduled for July 1st, which I actually ended up getting my LS3 swap 1969 Camaro on the dyno instead. If you haven't seen that video and you're into that kind of stuff, I'll leave the link right here. But the night before, or the day before, I said, maybe I should make sure that there is no more smoking in this motor. I'd hate to drive an hour and a half to the dyno, waste my time, waste the tuner's time, only to have it do the exact same thing. So I went up and set up my tripod, which you guys are currently on, went to an abandoned back road in Mexico, did some light, half throttle pulls, and here you go. It's still smoking. Like, kind of a lot. So at that point, I basically parked it in the driveway, and it's been sitting there for almost a month now, collecting sawdust from house projects, collecting pollen, just sitting out there, neglected, rotors rusting, you know, just, it is what it is, guys. I wanted to work on the Lightning, I wanted to work on the Camaro, I got some Corvette stuff coming up, but yeah, I was kind of devastated. If you haven't been following this series, I bought this car back last October because I thought that it needed maybe just a clutch, maybe a little bit more. Turns out it needed a whole motor, the whole clutch, bell housing was cracked. I've been through this car front to back, inside and out. The only thing I haven't done yet is touch the paint because I'm waiting to get it mechanically sorted. But I was devastated, guys. I really thought we had it licked this time and it wasn't, so I just kind of put it on the back burner. But in the meantime, I started looking around. At this point, I was like, I don't want any more downtime with this car. I'd like to pull this motor out and potentially kind of start from scratch. And you know, that would mean that this car would be parked without a motor for months, potentially. So I was like, well, maybe I could find some sort of replacement motor in the meantime while I figure this thing out. So lo and behold, started looking on eBay, and I found this. This is a complete 2003 forged Cobra engine. And I got it 3 weeks ago now, and it has been sitting under blankets so you guys wouldn't see it in the background over in the corner of the garage. But let me take you guys in here. You guys can get a little bit better look at this thing, and we'll talk about what the plan is. Oh, I can't believe I bought another one of these. So yeah, guys, there's some footage of me going to pick this thing up. I found this motor on eBay, and like I said, I'll put up a screenshot of the listing right now. That's basically how I found it. And what was interesting to me was, of course, the price. Normally a complete 0304 Cobra engine, including all these accessories, the blower, the pulley bridge, the lower pulley, valve covers, injectors, everything you see here is potentially up to like a $10,000 setup. And this one was like $5,000. So I clicked on the listing and messaged the seller and said, does it really come like that? Like, it's not like just the long block and you took a picture of all the accessories. And he was like, nope, comes with everything you see right there. So I was like, great. You know, what's the deal with it? He said, yeah, it's freshly rebuilt, Ross pistons, factory forged Cobra crank, forged rods, you know, basically new bearings, just gone through, ready to roll. Now I know what you're thinking. Chris, for sure this motor came with receipts from the machine shop, because there's no way you want to go through what you went through with this one. You know, a headache like that, you want to be sure that it's solid, right? Nope. No receipts. Guy said, I bought it from a guy who's had it rebuilt by a reputable guy in the modular world, but don't have the receipts and don't remember the guy's name. So, I guess that's kind of the catch here. Originally, I had lost interest. I was like, you know what, I really don't want to, take that gamble again. But then I started pricing out some of this stuff, like the blower and plenum, the fuel rails, the pulley bridge, the lower pulley and cage, the timing cover, the valve covers, the coil covers, just everything that makes this a complete 03 Cobra engine and not just a long block or a short block. Started pricing some of that stuff out on what these parts go for used on eBay, and it was over $5,000. So I figured if I could get this whole motor for around $5,000, how could you lose? So I ended up making a deal with the guy off of eBay, bought this entire long block, everything that you see, and some other stuff, the engine wiring harness, the power steering pump, the AC pump, the flywheel spacer, and a couple other things, a whole box of parts, for $4,600, as you see it right here. It was down in Franklin, Kentucky, which is right near Bowling Green. I got a quote from FedEx Freight to get it shipped up here for $300. 3 days later, the terminal called me and said, yep, it's here, it's ready for pickup. So I went there, they loaded it in the bed of the pickup, and that was that. So all in, I have $4,900 into this complete 03 Cobra engine. And as of filming this video, I already have sold the wiring harness and the power steering pump for like $250, so call it $4,650. We're into this motor, and obviously we don't need two blowers and two pulley bridges and all that other stuff. So we now have two complete 03 Cobra motors. One of them runs good but burns oil. This one, who knows? But my goal is, here's the plan. Here's where my head's at. We take this motor out, swap any accessories we need to, put this motor in, hopefully it runs and drives well, doesn't have any issues, and in the meantime we figure out what's wrong with this one. Then, hopefully at the end of the day, I have on the stand here another complete and well-running 03, 04 Cobra motor that I can A, save for another project, or B, because I'll have receipts for it being gone through at the machine shop, sell it for $9,000 to $11,000, as a complete 03, 04 Cobra motor, and someone else can swap it into their project. So the final cost breakdown for this car is going to be insane. If we ever get there, you guys are not going to want to miss that, but this is going to be a whole separate spreadsheet. But I'm hoping that through this deal, I can basically break even somehow on, another motor via the value that I just got here. It is a bit of a gamble. What was that cheesy show on like Discovery Channel with that, what was it called? Counting Cars? Oh yeah, the guy was called The Count. He had that bandana all the time. He's like, I never gamble in Vegas, but I do gamble on cars and I always go all in. I don't really like gambling either, but if I find a 03 Cobra motor on eBay for $4,600, I'm taking that gamble every day of the week and twice on Sundays. So that's a story, that's a background. Let's get you guys in here. Let's take a look at this thing. So yeah, this is it, guys. Like I said, I spent an hour or two getting it out of my truck on the engine crane, getting it on the engine stand, getting it in the garage here. And then I basically threw some towels over it and left it because I wanted to go through it with you guys together. So I have not touched this thing. I've not looked at it. I've not done anything. Obviously, we'll start at the top. We got the Eaton M112 blower. Looks like we got an aftermarket billet flow 2.93 pulley. We've got the OEM plenum, OEM throttle body, OEM fuel rails. These are the factory 03, 04 Cobra fuel injectors. I'm pretty sure they're 39 pounds. Coil covers. Someone painted the valve covers. I'm guessing this is Ford Racing Blue. Actually looks pretty nice, although the guy, when he shipped the motor to me, I think one of the straps rubbed, or maybe this was already there. I don't know, but no big deal. We can always repaint these. These are pretty valuable. Coming to the front here, we've got the 03, 04 Cobra specific pulley bridge, which has an aftermarket idler here. Behind that, you've got this specific Cobra part, the idler bridge there for the inner belt. The heat exchanger, or the intercooler rather, is underneath the blower. The lower Cobra intake is rather valuable, again, specific to the Cobras. Coming down here, we've got that caged pulley and assembly here. The alternator bracket specific to the Cobra, this one is as well. Oil cooler, I mean, I could go on and on, guys. This is where all the value is. All these parts, even though they're dirty and they don't look like much, they are valuable and getting more rare and hard to find. But yeah, it is, as far as I can see, complete. Down to the motor mounts, we've got an iron block that someone has painted black, oil pans on there. Inner pulley's on there. I mean, it's basically missing belts and an alternator, which I have an extra alternator for this thing. So we have everything to make a complete 03 Cobra motor. As far as the car is concerned, I gave it just a quick rinse just because you guys know me. Trying to stay motivated, need to keep a clean work area. Couldn't be working on a filthy, disgusting car, so this thing should be ready for surgery. Now, what do we think is wrong with this thing? The way I see it, there's two possibilities. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments. We know it has 32 new valve seals, so it's not that. It is a fresh rebuild. So it has 210 PSI compression across the board. It runs fantastic. It sounds fantastic. It doesn't burn oil when it's just idling. It only burns oil at cold startup after it was hot the last time you ran it and under engine load. So the way I see it is the only two possibilities are the guides themselves, because I only replaced one of the 32, but I think that is unlikely because if the guides themselves are bad, you'd probably have more guide noise like ticking in the motor, which this one has none. It is as quiet as a sewing machine. And also I'm pretty sure that the seals themselves are what would keep the oil out, not so much the guides. Second possibility is the oil control rings. So here's one of the pistons out of the original motor from this car that is completely smoked. You can see all the grooves here in the skirt. I think it's this one actually. The rings are welded together. Oh no, it's this one. Ringland is completely gone, messed up, detonation, whatever. Anyways, you got 3 rings here. You got your 2 compression rings, which are these 2, 1, 2. Then this squiggly one here is what's called your oil control ring. And as the name implies, it's designed to basically scrape the cylinder and keep the oil, from entering the combustion chamber. So, seeing as how this motor has perfect compression, it's safe to assume we don't have any problem with our compression rings. But it does burn oil. It's possible that there's a problem with the oil control rings, or they weren't set up properly, or who knows, which sucks. Those are custom diamond pistons in there. So that's one possibility. The other possibility kind of goes with the second one, is that maybe the cylinder walls got glazed. At first startup, you guys remember we had that rocker or follower pop off, and so I had to idle the car for a while. And basically when you're breaking in a new motor, you want to keep the RPMs up to help those rings seat. So the other possibility is at first startup, when I started this thing, the cylinder walls just glazed over, and therefore it's got some oil control problems. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. That's kind of where I'm at. Nothing catastrophically wrong, but either way, it sounds like to fix this problem, whether it's guides or cylinder walls or whatever, the motor's got to come out and be blown apart, which is why we are where we're at with this thing. So now you guys know the plan, know where my head's been at for the past month or so. Got a couple of 03, 04 Cobra motors here. This one is the one that I'm interested in right now. At this point, I'd like to kind of blow it apart and see what I got myself into. Let's get a valve cover off. See what it looks like in here. At some point, we'll maybe flip it over, pull the oil pan off, maybe pull the blower off, take a look at that. But let's see where we're at, and then we'll get into maybe getting this thing out and swapping a motor in this thing for what seems like the 69th time. Can't wait. All right, let's get into this one. All right, guys, first impressions here. So far, so good. I see a couple things that I like. Right off the bat, you see the head bolts all have paint marks on them, straight down through the middle. That should imply that someone who was torquing these, was indicating to themselves that they had already torqued that head bolt to make sure you don't get messed up. That's a good engine building practice that a lot of engine builders will do. Next up, you can see the cams are labeled LI, left intake, LE, left exhaust, and then same, right exhaust, right intake. Number 3 that I see is you see all this red stuff down there. If you get your finger in there, it's real sticky. That's assembly lube. It's another good sign that someone put this thing together, using assembly lube. So another sign of a fresh rebuild. Another thing that I like to see here is the timing components. We can see we've got metal guides and metal tensioners. That was a common failure point on some of these, is the plastic tensioners. So even if these timing components aren't new, they look great, and they are the upgraded Ford Racing components, it appears, so that's a good sign. All right, let's keep going, maybe pop this blower off. All right, getting fast at blowing these motors apart, unfortunately, but nothing to report up here. A couple other things I like to see. Intake gaskets are OEM style. Everything in here looks good. You guys might be able to see, I think there's a chance that these heads were rebuilt as well. Those guides look brand new.
Enhance. Enhance. Enhance.
And you can even see some fresh like assembly lube or grease going into, come on, focus, going into one of those there. So that's good. Valves look good. Also noticed off camera here, hopefully you guys, let me get the angle right. There we go. See that blue in there? I think those are brand new Felpro style valve seals. So it's possible these heads were rebuilt and gone through as well, which is a great sign. New guides, new valve seals, potentially new valves, who knows? Everything looks good, the cams look great. Spark plugs, also like to see that. These are TR6s, which you guys know are the ideal plug for almost all your bolt-on Cobra setups in the mid-teens as far as boosts. So this person at least knew the right plug to put in there. That's a good sign. They are used, but OEM Ford Motorcraft coil packs, that's another good sign. Blower, nothing really to report. I haven't dug into it yet, but you know, the lower intake is there. Looks like we've got a fresh Ford gasket on the adapter that goes into the intercooler inside the lower intake. Another good sign. Blower feels good. Makes all the right noises, at least by hand. Block is clean. Like I said, it's been painted black. Oh yeah, also got a, looks like we got a new OEM Ford dipstick here and original Ford oil filter, which is another good sign. At this point, I'd like to scope the cylinders, and we're gonna use a brand new tool that I just got to do just that. It's from Vevor. So you guys know I've got this pretty standard endoscope that I've been using for years to look inside of engines and tight to reach, hard to reach spaces, tight spaces. I used it to originally diagnose the bad engine in this car. You can see one of those bad pistons up there. The problem is, and any of you guys who have ever used one of these before know, it's hard to manipulate the end of the endoscope inside a cylinder. Let's say you're down at the right level in the cylinder. Now you're trying to look around. I found this, I've seen it used in other videos, and I've always wanted one. This is basically Vevor's top of the line endoscope, and this is what sets it apart from everything else. This is a flexible head that you can control using your thumb here, and now we can look around. So for example, we go straight to get down in the cylinder, then we can turn it and just pivot, and now we can look around the whole way around, which would never be possible with something like that. So I'm really excited about this. The link for this will be in the description. I think this is a 5-inch screen here. Mounts right on this thing, nice and secure. Okay, there's that, so we can adjust that. So basically you hold it, it's handheld, use your thumb, one-handed operation. Now we can look around. So how do we turn this thing on? I guess power is a good place to start. Okay, the camera is on now. We can see I can drive over to see you guys, then all the way back forward to over here, just spinning this wheel. It's got a light, adjustable brightness. What's up my nose? So this thing does not include a memory card, but if you put a memory card in here, you can take pictures and videos and all that good stuff. But I mean, this is a great tool. I'm really excited to be able to look around, you know, when you're going into places. I think this is what really sets this thing apart. They call it their steering endoscope. Link for this will be in the description. I'm gonna use this for everything. All right, let's check out these cylinders. All right, so let's go into this. Looks like the piston's down in that one. Let's go down in here. Boom. Look at that. We got a part number 99651, arrow pointing towards the front of the motor. Check that out. Now, if we go all the way down to the bottom. All right, guys, Chris from the future here. I apologize about some of this footage. I didn't realize about the glare on the screen there, but I do my best to kind of get you guys a view inside the motor. And we'll be getting a memory card in the future so I can show you guys the actual footage. Bear with me. We should be able to flip back up. Holy crap. Look at the valves, you can look at them. How sick is that? You could never do that with another endoscope. So we got, looks like intake valves are closed. That's gonna be exhaust valves that are open right there. See that? And we can just wheel and kind of look around and then twist to pivot. You can even look back on the endoscope coming into the cylinder right there. How cool is that? So yeah, heads look like they've been cleaned up. You know, valves are used. But I wonder, I bet you the guides are new. And the, you know, combustion surface itself looks good. Let's flip back around. Okay, so now we're looking at the piston again. 99651, let's go like 45 or 90 degrees rather. Now we can look at the cylinder walls. Beautiful cross hatching. So this motor definitely has not been run. Here's another one, more of the same story. Now if we go down the old timing cover hole, I wonder what we see. See that? Let me see if I can get a little closer. Oh yeah. Hopefully you guys can see that. Turn the wheel a little bit. You see that? It actually says OH there. But that is a brand new Ford high output oil pump. It's the same one I just put in this car. And that thing looks brand new. That oil pump is brand new. So all signs are looking like this has, I would have done this the same way. Brand new oil pump, got the heads rebuilt. Looks like we got a fresh hone on the cylinders. I'm liking everything that I see up top here. So if we take that piston part number, which is 99651, right here, you can see the bore is 3.572, so we know that we're 20 thou over because the stock bore is going to be right there, the 3552. So it's bored. The dish is minus 16 and with 51cc or 53cc heads, and Cobra heads are around between 51 and 53cc, so we're probably between 8.5 to 8.7 to 1 compression, which is basically factory compression, the same compression the Cobras came with, so perfect for this application. Now let's flip it over and pull the oil pan off and see what the bottom side looks like. Well, I'm liking what I'm seeing down here as well. Right off the bat, we can see we've got some ARP main studs. You can see the ARP assembly lube is still on there. We've got assembly lube on all the major components on the lower end. Looks like we've got a factory forged Kellogg Cobra crank. And then if we look down here, get my light in the right spot. Look at that. Those are the factory SVT rods. So factory Manly forged SVT rods, and then of course Those Ross pistons, which look like they have low or almost no miles on them. Windage trays there. Looks like we've got a brand new pickup tube and screen attached to what we already looked at from the top side, which appears to be a brand new Ford Racing high pressure, high volume oil pump. This all looks great. Happy about that. Took the lower pulley off. Spins over nice. No binding. Feels good. Of course, the factory rods came with ARP hardware, which was most of the budget for the Terminator project. Was these rods were like $52 a piece, whereas the cast ones that you'd find in the Lightning were like $6. But these rods are super strong. Everything here is good for big power, way more than we'll ever be making with, you know, a pulleyed Eaton. So I'm pretty happy with that. Basically what I expected. I mean, is there still a risk of running this motor? Of course. I don't have receipts. I don't know if, you know, Joe built it in his backyard, which is entirely, maybe Joe knows what he's doing. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it was built at a reputable machine shop and just, you know, receipts got lost. But there's no way to visually check, you know, tolerances on rings and bearing clearances and things like that. But visually, as far as I can see, everything looks good. Everything appears to be as it was described and, you know, pretty standard for a Cobra. Got a multi-layer steel head gasket here. That's what we like to see. Possibly new freeze plugs. That's good. Again, with the dad comments, you guys, but we needed this rain. Finally got some rain around here. It has been a hot and dry summer. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the condition that I see in this long block. I think I'm gonna put the rest of these accessories to the side for now. Probably push this motor to the side. And then we need to focus on the old girl here. I think it's time to think about dropping this motor out and getting ready to plop this one on the K-member. I don't really want to do it, but that's discipline, you know? Even though you don't want to do it, it's got to be done. So let's get dirty, let's dig in, let's push this stuff to the side and get to work tearing out this motor that I just put in 500 miles ago. Oh, damn it. Damn it. Why am I here? Well, this will be my third time pulling a motor out of this thing, so should we time it? I think I'm getting pretty fast at it. Although it has been like 2 or 3 months since I did it, but it is 6:24 p.m. right now. We'll call it 6:25 when we start. Gonna take a break for dinner here in a few. I'll film as much as I can, but you guys have already seen it twice, so we'll see. But I will keep track of how long it takes me to drop this engine out the bottom, and I'll talk to you then. Let's get after it.
Just tell me what time it is. We're wasting valuable time here. 2 minutes later, 7:15 p.m. Really stopped at 7:13. Feel like I've been here twice before, because unfortunately I have, and most of you guys have been here with me as well. So unfortunately, really nothing new here. Dropped her out as one, engine, transmission, everything. Here is every single tool I used. Tried to keep stuff, I like to keep kind of a clean work area, as you guys know. So really, nothing too crazy here. Of course, 100 of you in the comments are going to be like, well, you got a 2-post lift. Well, you could do this with an engine crane by lifting the front. Plenty of guys have done that. Or my ceilings aren't even 9 feet tall. They're like a weird, 8 feet 9 inches or whatever the guy that decided to build this house put them at. So I got this Universal Lift 2. A lot of guys ask about this thing. It's the Universal Lift 2 or Triumph C7000 or something like that. It's like under $3,000. And you too can have a, okay 2-post lift. It is actually 2 days later. Started late on Monday night. Worked for 32 minutes before dinner. Took a break for dinner. Then worked after dinner for just about an hour. Decided to call it a reasonably early night. Last night I worked all day on a porch project on my house. So I just came out here for 20 minutes after dinner and basically got the motor ready to pull. And then, today, unbolted the shocks, unbolted the K-member, slid the jack under there, and dropped out the motor 18 minutes for a total of 129 minutes or 2 hours and 9 minutes to go from a running driving car to motor out the bottom. So, once again, today it's just about 7:30, 8 o'clock right now. I'm beat. I've been working on other stuff all day. So I think that we're gonna call this good for tonight. Motor is out, and we can figure out some sort of plan tomorrow morning. Get this thing out, start figuring out what we gotta swap from that one over there, and keep pressing forward. So catch you guys in the morning.
How did that happen? Man, if we were measuring wealth by number of questionable 03 Cobra motors owned, I'm loaded. As Kanye West once said, welcome to the good life. Man, mid-2000s hip-hop. Peak. Fight me on that one. As I mentioned, it is the next morning. I can't drink all day if you don't start early. Just kidding. It's actually about 6:30 the next day. Worked outside all day, once again on this front patio landscaping stair project that I got going on. But I got the motor out from under the Cobra, got this one wheeled over, and my plan is to basically use only the long block from this setup right here. So I'm basically gonna take the whole blower assembly off, the valve covers, all the accessories, transmission, headers, cooling crossover, or head cooling mod here, basically all the stuff on this thing, and just put it on this one. We'll take all this stuff off, clean it up, put it to the side for another project or whatever. But we know that all of this stuff is good. We know the blower is good, the heat exchanger is good. We know the valve covers have new gaskets. We know our head cooling mod is good. I did all new idlers over here. We got that KMJ alternator. We know the crank pulley is good. All this stuff, it looks good, but I'd like to go through it in a little more depth, but not right now. We know all this stuff is good, so I'm gonna swap everything over here, and then we'll deal with the rest of this later. So that's the goal right now. Obviously, I gotta separate the transmission and then get this on the K-member here. So even though the motor's out, a lot of work to do, so let's dive right in and see how much we get done tonight. Never ends.
We are making some headway here. The engine harness is off, the blower assembly is off, complete blower assembly. Got the lower pulley off. It fought me a little bit, but nothing the Milwaukee M18 and a little bit of heat couldn't handle. Got all the coils, coil covers, all the plugs out. So even though it's not really relevant to getting this car up and running again, curiosity's got me and I'm kind of in failure analysis mode right now. Plugs all look pretty good. There is oil on the threads, but nothing on the electrode. Nothing really to note there. They all look almost identical, which is exactly what you would expect with even compression across the board. And, you know, nothing really too exciting. The car runs great. Right off the bat up here though, pulling the blower assembly, there's oil pooled up. This cylinder is really noticeable. There's motor oil pooled around the intake port here on the head. So I don't really know if that's normal on these motors or not. There's nothing really, that's just staining. There's no standing oil or anything on the inlet here. Also, probably worth mentioning, because I'm sure some of you guys will mention it in the comments, I didn't film any of this, but like 3 weeks ago, right before the dyno, just to be sure it wasn't like a PCV issue, I completely deleted the PCV system. Just put these 2 cheap breathers in there, completely eliminated the PCV valve, and then capped it off here on the intake tube. Just to be sure that the smoke wasn't coming from like a plugged up PCV valve. I even put a brand new PCV valve in, but just to be absolutely sure, got rid of it altogether. Didn't change anything, still smoked the exact same amount. So our smoking issue is not related to a positive crankcase ventilation or, you know, crankcase pressure issue. So where is this coming from? Is it blowing up past the crankcase or past the rings in compression? And, you know, how would it get up above here? Not sure. So that's one thing I've noticed. Also got my Vevor steering endoscope back out and want to see if I can show you guys a couple things that I've noticed. I'm gonna make sure that you guys can see this time. So every cylinder seems to have this oil pooled up down there, you know, in the valve reliefs. You see that oil? That's motor oil. You can even see a little bit on the piston right there. So the oil is getting onto the piston. That's gonna cause that puff of smoke at startup. But how is it getting there? Answer me. How is it getting there? Cylinder walls look fantastic, still look like they got a fresh hone everywhere. And I mean, nothing else really of concern. I'm kind of at a loss here, guys. Where is that oil coming from? What is causing this? With one exception, I did notice something on a cylinder on the other side. Let me get you guys over there and we'll find it. Is it this one? This one's got some oil burn stuff going on right here in the center of the piston. Yeah, it was this one. Hopefully you guys can see that. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's like a brown staining on the cylinder wall. Not about, you know, ignore that harsh line right at the top right there. But down lower here, you see that brown staining? Is that a glazed cylinder wall? What would cause that brown staining? It's a mystery, guys. What is causing this motor to burn oil? Why is it still fighting me? Definitely, seriously, guys, let me know in the comments down below if you're knowledgeable with these modular motors or just knowledgeable or seen this issue in the past. You know, perfect compression, runs awesome, new valve seals, but still burning oil. Just curious at this point. We'll get it sorted, we'll get it blown apart, you know, down the road. But for now, let's cross our fingers that this one is good and we can get this Cobra back on the road for some cruising and hopefully get on the dyno, see what she puts down for power. But I'm out of time in this one, you guys. I apologize for the absence of the Cobra on the channel, but like I said, it just kind of, you know, got me down in the dumps and just didn't really want to deal with it. And, you know, I'm just busy. You guys know that. I had to put it on the back burner for a little bit, but we are elbows deep back in this thing. I'm gonna start filming the video, if not right now, tomorrow morning, to continue swapping stuff over to get this motor, this new to me motor, back in this car and see if we maybe get lucky for once with this car. Thank you guys as always for watching. If you're not subscribed, consider doing so. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Catch you in the next one. You know what, that's enough for today. I'm heading happy hour. Cheers.